Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Another couple cards for you guys using another STAMPtember limited edition stamp set. This one is with Hero Arts, and this is the WILDFLOWERS vintage stamp set that I am just somewhat obsessed with. This is in limited quantities and only available while supplies last through STAMPtember here. I will have links to this set. So I have some Bristol Smooth cardstock and two pieces of it, and I cut them down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just working on my Waffle Flower Water Media Max. I'm going to do a whole bunch of ink blending. But before I get to the ink blending, I want to stamp these images. So I used my anti-static powder tool first and then brushed off the excess. And then I'm stamping the images with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And since this ink takes a while to dry, and it especially takes a while to dry on Bristol, I can stamp all of these images before I heat emboss them. Now, I've said in other videos, like, you don't need to heat emboss, like when I'm doing like watercoloring and different things. With this, I would say you pretty much do, only because when I clear heat emboss these, that'll help really resist all the ink blending I'm going to do. So, and it also will prevent, just in case, like, I don't want to ink blend over this black, all this black stamping and have it smear, because knowing my luck, that would happen. So after I was done stamping everything, I coated it all with clear embossing powder, then melted it with my heat tool. And the beauty of a set like this is when I first looked at it, I was like, you know, it's nice, you know, but then when you realize, like, oh, silhouette stamping, ooh, I can do whatever I want with these. Like, I can stamp them like I do on these panels. I'm stamping everything just randomly. Like, they don't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of it. But then I was like, ooh, these would look really pretty, like stamped in color and then heat embossed and then blend over backgrounds. Or, you know, heat embossed in gold. And like, it's one of those sets where it's like, oh, the ideas and the possibilities are just endless. So I kind of did just a different sort of grouping of these images onto my second panel. And then once I had it all filled up, I coated it again with my Detail Clear embossing powder and then melted all of that with my heat tool. And then for the ink blending, I am using the Hero Arts Reactive inks that I have done a couple videos on now, and I am really liking these. I actually ordered like all the refills for them as well, because I was like, ooh, the refills will be fun for, you know, painting, etc., as well as because I'm like using them so much. So I'm using Ranger mini ink blending tools and foams for these, and then I'm going to store the foams that I'm using for each color. I'm going to store them in the same way I store my Distress ink foams, which I did a video on a while ago. But I'm going to store them, and this way I'll just keep those same ones for each of these colors, because I see myself doing this quite often because I really like using these for black backgrounds like this. So for this first background, I started with Creamsicle ink, blending that from the top. And then I went in with blue raspberry ink, and when those two kind of blend, they kind of create a pretty sort of green color. So just kind of went back and forth with those. And then I'm going in with berry smoothie ink and blending that in, and then it's going to blend in and create almost like a bluey purple sort of color with that blue or raspberry. And again, kind of go back and forth with those. And then my final color along the bottom is grape slush. And just, it's just so pretty. I really like the colors of this ink line. They're just pretty. Anyway, after I was done blending, I'm going to do some splattering, because that's the whole, you know, bonus with these inks is they're very reactive with water. So I just have my Nuvo mister bottle. I take the nozzle right out and I'm just flicking water on it. This doesn't sit for very long at all, like maybe 15-20 seconds. And I pick up the water with paper towel, and you immediately get that gorgeous splatter effect. And then that mini mister bottle, I have Perfect Pearl, like Ranger Perfect Pearl powder in there already with water. So I just have to shake it up really, really well to redistribute that powder. And then I'm going to splatter this heavily, very heavily on this background. And then this I'm just going to set aside and let it dry. So I'm going to have like the splatter effect from the water, but then I'm also going to have that shimmery splatter effect as well. So I set that aside to dry. And then for my second panel, I'm going to do a different color combo. So I'm going to start with the Creamsicle ink again, but this time from the bottom. So I blend on the Creamsicle ink, and then I'm going to go in with Fruit Punch. and bring that in, and again, blend that in really well with the creamsicle ink. And then above the fruit punch, I'm going to use the berry smoothie again. That one's like sort of a favorite of mine. I seem to reach for this one a lot, this berry smoothie color. But again, I love just all the colors. So I blend in the berry smoothie color and into the fruit punch. And then I also added in a little bit of the grape slush. I wasn't going to, but I just thought this would give a nicer transition before I had the blue. So I added a bit of that in, and then I'm going in with blue Hawaii, and that really just brought it all together. Just love it. So blended that in really, really well, kind of deepened that up quite a bit. And then once I was happy with that, again, gonna splatter everything with water, let that sit for 10, 15 seconds, whatever, and then remove that excess with my paper towel. And then I'm going to splatter the Perfect Pearl powder mixture mixed with water heavily all over this background, just splats and splatters and whatnot. And then same thing, set that aside to let it completely dry. So while those are drying, I'm going to stamp the insides of both of my cards. So both cards are going to be top folding A2 size cards that I made from Simon Says Stamps 120 pound white cardstock. And I have all these silhouette stamps again, and I'm just inking them up with those same reactive ink colors. Just using, I have my, it's hard to show when I'm filming straight down like this, but I have the ink pad kind of on an angle, and I'm just using the edge of the ink pad to ink up the stamp. So that way I can ink up like a narrower portion. And I just tap the ink on in the same kind of order of the colors that I did on the front, and just go in and stamp. And a lot of times I was stamping a second and sometimes even a third time without re-inking the image to get that second generation and third generation of these images. And then I just kept doing that. And then once I was happy with it, ink up the stamp again with all those colors, stamp that on the inside of the card, and that's it. So after I did the first one, I did the second one the exact same way, just with the other colors I had used and putting them in kind of the same order as how I blended them onto the card front. So just tapping those ink pads onto it and then stamping it again, and then just filling it in with some of the other images. So really quick and easy. I'm not going to add any sentiments or anything. I'm just going to leave this as is on the inside. And then for the outsides, this is now dried, so you can just see that shimmer. And then you also get the shine from the clear embossing powder. And it's fabulous, and I love it. So these are dry, so now I can trim these down just a little bit, just because I want to pop them up onto my card fronts and have kind of the border of the card base show. So I trimmed off about 1/4 of an inch off of one of each side of these. So one off the top, kind of one off the side. So it ends up being like basically 4 inches by 5 1/4, something like that. So after I trimmed it, I ended up stamping the thank you sentiment from the set. There's more than one sentiment, but I chose the thank you. And I am going to stamp that onto both of these panels with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. I had originally white heat embossed these onto black cardstock like the sentiments, but I didn't like how that looked for these. So I ended up scrapping that idea and just stamped the sentiments onto, like, directly onto the panels with the black embossing ink. So again, if I had been planning ahead and knew that's what I was going to do, I would have stamped that in the beginning and clear heat embossed that as well. But in the end, it still looks just fine. So then I coated each of these panels, like the back of them, with Simon's Big Mama foam tape, trimming that with my little Tim Holtz snips, and then peeled off the backing, and then I can pop these onto each of their card bases. And then as a final bit of embellishment, this is where I bring in the bling. My last video I didn't use any. Kind of lost my mind, but I make up for it here. So I am using the Studio Katia iridescent butterflies because they were perfect for images like these cards, everything. Like, they're just meant to be. So I sprinkle these rather heavily on each of these card fronts here, and I'm just going to adhere them into place with little dabs of Simon's Craft Tacky glue. Just picking up the butterflies with my little jewel picker, putting down the glue, pressing the little butterflies into place, adding a few more because you can never have enough. And then once those are all adhered, these cards are finished. So like I mentioned at the beginning, this is a limited edition set. I will also link to a similar one. I've done videos on the Simon Says stamp has a silhouette set. It's different because it's like 2 large stamps. But I'll link to that as well, just in case you're watching this down the road and the set isn't available. I'll link to those because that is a really good set too. Can't have more than, you can never have enough in my opinion, but that's just me. But I'll link to all the supplies I used in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog, so if you are interested, you can check those out. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I really appreciate it. I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!